For as long as I can remember studying history, I've heard the same words used to describe Congo: chaotic, cursed, broken. But the more I dig, the more I realize something unsettling. Congo is not cursed. Congo is chained. When I look back, I see the chains begin under King Leopold II. An entire nation turned into a private business. Human hands cut off. Villages burned. Lives reduced to rubber quotas. This wasn't disorder. It was a system, engineered brutality for profit. Then I see hope rise in Patrice Lumumba, Congo's first democratically elected leader.
Nous allons veiller à ce que l'été de notre patrie profite véritablement à ses enfants.
Exploitation.
Imagine real independence. And I see that hope crushed, assassinated, silenced. Not because he failed, but because he threatened a global order built on Congo's submission. Next came Mobutu Sese Seko, propped up during the Cold War as a strategic ally. While billions disappeared into private accounts, ordinary Congolese families struggled to survive. Again, not chaos. Control. And then the wars. The so-called African World War. Foreign armies, militias, corporations, all circling Congo's gold, diamonds, coltan, and cobalt. Millions dead. Entire regions destabilized. Even today, the minerals powering our smartphones and electric cars trace back to conflict zones in eastern Congo. When I tell this story, I don't see randomness. I see patterns. Organized exploitation, polished supply chains, and global silence. Congo has never lacked wealth. It has never lacked courage. It has never lacked vision. What it has been denied, over and over again, is justice. So I ask myself, and I ask you, what would it truly mean to free Congo? Because until the chains are broken, the war never really ends. 7,000 dead. 7 million displaced. That is the cost of the war in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo since the beginning of 2025. And as I look at those numbers, I struggle to see them as statistics. I see families forced to run. Children growing up in camps. Entire cities emptied by fear. This is not a new war. It is the continuation of a long and bloody struggle between rebel groups and government forces fighting for control of Congolese territory. But now, as rebels push westward, the conflict feels like it's on the edge of something even more dangerous.
Beneath this soil, there are vast riches. An estimated $24 trillion in untapped resources.
Congo has a rich abundance of critical minerals and so-called rare earths.
Diamonds, gold, copper, and the most sought-after minerals in the world, lithium, cobalt and coltan. The demand for these rare earths is being fueled by the tech revolution and the world's race to become sustainable. Every electric car battery contains 10 kilograms of cobalt, much of it mined in Congo.
Now DRC is responsible for 71% of the world's cobalt production. Once extracted, the mineral is used to make the highly powerful and lucrative lithium batteries, which are used to fuel everything from electric vehicles to
something that could spiral beyond borders. To understand why this keeps happening, I have to go back. Congo's modern history begins with exploitation. In the late 19th century, the land that is now the Democratic Republic of the Congo became the personal possession of King Leopold II. Under his rule, millions are estimated to have died as rubber and ivory were extracted through forced labor and terror. It remains one of the most brutal colonial regimes in African history. Independence did not bring stability. The young nation faced secessionist movements and political turmoil. Its first democratically elected prime minister, Patrice Lumumba, was assassinated. In 1965, Mobutu Sese Seko seized power, later renaming the country Zaire and ruling as a dictator for decades. Corruption hollowed out institutions. Wealth flowed upward. The state weakened. Then came a shockwave from across the border. In 1994, Rwanda descended into genocide. After the mass slaughter of Tutsis, many Hutu extremists fled into eastern Congo. Armed militias reorganized there. Rwanda, determined to prevent further threats, became deeply involved in Congolese affairs. What followed were two devastating Congo wars that drew in multiple African nations and killed millions. Today, more than 100 armed groups operate in eastern Congo. But one name dominates headlines: M23. Formed by Congolese Tutsis and named after a 2009 peace agreement, M23 claims it exists to defend minority communities from hostile militias. Yet it has faced serious accusations of massacres, forced recruitment, and other abuses. Rwanda has repeatedly been accused.
With international focus consumed by the wars in Ukraine and Gaza, there is limited interest in the DRC crisis and no hope of support from the global north. Meanwhile, the growing technological demands of the modern world directly fuel exploitation, further intensifying the factors driving conflict in eastern DRC.
If it were to be determined that
accused of backing M23 with arms and troops, allegations it denies. Rwanda's president, Paul Kagame, is widely credited for ending the 1994 genocide and rebuilding his country. He is also a skilled diplomat, maintaining strong ties with Western governments.
People in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo have endured 25 years of war. The conflict here is the deadliest global conflict since World War II, with over 6 million people killed. Now, they're facing down another rebellion.
Beneath Congo's soil lies extraordinary wealth: gold, diamonds, copper, lithium, coltan, and cobalt. The country produces roughly 70% of the world's cobalt, a critical mineral used in lithium-ion batteries. Every electric vehicle, every smartphone, every renewable energy storage system depends in part on resources extracted from Congolese ground. And yet, despite this abundance, Congo remains one of the poorest countries in the world. Why? Because extraction has rarely translated into broad prosperity. Weak governance, corruption, and decades of instability have allowed foreign corporations, political elites, and armed groups to profit while local communities see little benefit. Mining routes become strategic military targets. Control over a single territory can mean access to millions of dollars in mineral exports. In 2023 and 2024, M23 seized key mining areas and supply routes in eastern Congo. By early 2025, after a rapid offensive, the group captured major cities including Goma and Bukavu. Thousands were killed in the fighting. Civilians fled in waves. Camps for displaced people swelled beyond capacity. The success of M23 seems surprising at first glance. Rwanda is far smaller than Congo in size and population. But the territories now under rebel influence are rich and strategically vital. Control over them reshapes regional power balances. For more than 2 decades, the United Nations has maintained a peacekeeping mission in Congo. At times, it helped stabilize certain areas. But without a strong political process to anchor peace, its influence has diminished. Regional forces have intervened. Ceasefires have been declared and broken. The violence continues. Meanwhile, global powers are watching closely.
I don't know the value of what I'm carrying or what it's used for, he says, but I'm sure others get very rich from it. He's not wrong. It's used in smartphones and other electronic devices. At least 40% of the world's supply comes from here, and much of it is now under the control of M23 rebels. The group is taking more towns and mining sites. They say their battle is against the government to protect ethnic minorities. But the UN and Kinshasa accuse M23 of exploiting the country's natural resources at the behest of its backer, Rwanda.
These allegations are false. We didn't come to fight for coltan. If we were in favor of coltan, only here would we control it. But we lead many people to other places where there are no minerals. And if our priority was mines, we'd be setting up taxes in this mine to get the money. That's a big lie. The UN experts didn't come here to get the real information. They have rumors. and no real information.
In December, Kinshasa filed criminal complaints against Apple. They say the US tech giant sources its rare minerals, including coltan, from Rwanda.
There are a number of allegations that say the smugglers take these minerals from Congo to Rwanda and other countries. But traders say it's not true.
No ore goes to Rwanda. We do our business here in Rubaya as always, and that helps me take care of my family.
But mired by decades of conflict, smuggling routes for rare minerals have long existed. And amid the latest escalation, Kinshasa has proposed a minerals for security deal to the EU and Donald Trump's US.
Sure, let the Americans buy up our minerals so that we can send our children to school. Otherwise, with Tshisekedi, we will die here. There are no schools here, no hospitals, no roads. You have seen the state of the roads. If the government takes over again, we will just continue to suffer. That's what Tshisekedi is doing despite our country's riches.
M23's levies on the resources are said to finance their battlefield operations. Regional concerns are complicating peacetimes. But many of Rubaya's residents talk about the irony of their suffering. They call it a curse of their resource-rich country. The roots of the war in Congo are complex and go back decades. But it has nothing to do with the mines, this miner tells us. We offer something valuable to the world, but get nothing in return, they say. Rahul Radhakrishnan, TRT World, Rubaya, Democrat.
Infrastructure, embedding itself deeply in the country's resource sector. As part of its broader economic strategy, it has prioritized battery production and clean energy supply chains. Control over critical minerals strengthens its global position. This has triggered anxiety in the United States and other Western nations. Cobalt and other rare minerals have been designated strategic resources. Policymakers increasingly see Congo not only as a humanitarian crisis but as a geopolitical battleground. In early 2025, Congolese representatives reportedly explored new partnerships with Washington, offering expanded access to mineral extraction in exchange for greater security support. The U.S., however, remains cautious about deeper military involvement. Direct intervention carries risks, especially if evidence were to confirm open Rwandan troop participation, which could transform the conflict into a full interstate war. And all the while, the humanitarian situation worsens. 7 million people displaced. Entire communities uprooted. Aid agencies stretched thin. Schools destroyed. Healthcare systems collapsing under pressure. With global attention focused on conflicts elsewhere, Congo often slips from international headlines. What happens next frightens me. If regional tensions escalate, Central Africa could face a broader war.
Vivre un Congo nouveau, un Congo digne et un Congo bien gouverné.
Recent anti-UN protests have turned deadly. At least 29 civilians and 4 UN peacekeepers died in protests where UN facilities were ransacked and looted throughout eastern Congo. Despite the risks, people still turned up in downtown Goma to join Sinsahara's team.
Clean energy continues to surge without stronger regulation and accountability. The economic incentives driving armed control of mining zones will remain powerful. The people of Congo are exhausted. They need stability, accountability, and a system where mineral wealth funds schools and hospitals instead of militias. But the actors most eager to engage are often those seeking strategic advantage. Corporations chasing profit, nations competing for supply chains, private security firms looking for contracts. When I step back, I see a tragic pattern. A country blessed with extraordinary resources repeatedly destabilized by the scramble to control them. The question is not whether Congo is important. It clearly is. The question is whether the world can support peace without turning the country into yet another arena for competition. Because behind every statistic is a life interrupted. And unless something fundamentally changes, the numbers will keep rising. As we close this episode, remember that these stories don't exist in isolation. They affect real people, real communities, and ultimately, our shared future. The world is more interconnected than ever, and the choices made in one region ripple across continents.
In the face of mounting evidence that M23 is massacring civilians, the group's leaders finally agreed to talk to the press.
La prise par nos troupes de Kishiche a été donc un coup dur. C'était donc un affront que l'ennemi aurait sans doute voulu lever.
When I first started learning about the situation in eastern Congo, I was shocked by how complicated and long-standing the conflicts are. One group that really stands out is the M23, or the March 23rd movement. I want to share what I've discovered, and I'll do it from my own perspective so you can follow the story as I see it. M23 officially formed in 2012, but its roots go back further. It's mostly made up of soldiers who used to be part of another rebel group called the CNDP. The name M23 comes from a peace agreement signed on March 23, 2009. The agreement was supposed to integrate these fighters into the Congolese army and address some of their grievances. But as I read, it became clear that many of the promises in that agreement were never fully honored. Feeling betrayed, these former soldiers regrouped as M23 and took up arms again. I remember reading about how quickly M23 became a major force in North Kivu, a province in eastern Congo. This area is rich in minerals, gold, coltan, and cobalt, and controlling it gives armed groups significant power. What really hit me was how M23 was able to capture Goma, a major city, in 2012. Imagine that, a rebel group taking over an entire city almost overnight. It showed me how weak the Congolese army was at the time and how the situation was much more than just a local conflict. It had regional and international implications. After some months of fighting and international pressure, M23 was defeated in 2013, and many of its fighters fled across the border into neighboring countries. I thought that might be the end of it, but by late 2021, reports started surfacing that M23 was back.
Self-proclaimed Lieutenant General Janvier Carreri leads the Alliance of Patriots for a Free and Sovereign Congo, or APCLS rebels, and fought the M23 in 2012. The general is welcomed here by people living just a few miles from advancing M23 soldiers.
Tuwahayarishe wale wavamizi wa nchi yetu ya Kongo. Tuko tayari, hakuna hata metri moja ambayo itatoka juu ya udongo wetu tukiwa hai. Mungu awabariki sana kwa mapokezi ambayo mmetupokea.
He's here to recruit and train both civilians and rebels fighting with other groups.
And displaced thousands of civilians. When I looked into it, I saw that this resurgence sparked tensions not just within Congo but across the entire Great Lakes region. There are even allegations that Rwanda is supporting M23, though they deny it, and that adds another layer of complexity. What really struck me as I followed this story is the human cost. Thousands of people are displaced, living in overcrowded camps, struggling to find food, water, and medical care. And meaningful conversations. If this episode gave you new insight, share it, reflect on it, and stay curious. Because awareness is powerful, and informed minds shape the future. I'll see you in the next episode.